Valve has defeated everyone. AAA companies, multi-billion-dollar corporations threatening to do bad things to them. Microsoft offering Gabe like 20 billion for the heart and soul of the whole PC marketplace, which is hilariously stupid, by the way, Microsoft. But you're Microsoft, so this does make sense for you to be stupid. But now, Valve finally met their match. And do you know what their match was? Valve just lost in a massive way to a bunch of lesbian activists. Yes, I'm not even joking. It's not even a big thing. It's just a bunch of lesbian activists who submagically how convinced payment processors like Visa to make Valve succumb to censorship. Absolute insanity. And now, well, now the payment processors are gonna hopefully get their monopolies destroyed because, well, if there's one thing gamers do not like, it's Steam getting something bad end of the deal. Oh yes, it's time to take down the payment processors, boys. It's time to destroy the duopoly.
Censorship in the video game industry has been a notable issue for decades now. You can go back to the early 2000s, in which you have the hot coffee controversy with Grand Theft Auto, in which we saw Rockstar Games having to take some unsatisfying measures due to legal pressure and lawmakers going after the company. That set a dangerous precedent for the video game industry, and we saw a lot of the gaming industry really back away from explicit content because of that reason. And even Rockstar Games just didn't even want to touch anything close to that. Now, there's obviously been some other instances in which we saw console makers really going after certain explicit types of content within their experiences. There's been a divide between Japan and, say, American culture in terms of what's acceptable and what's not. And we've seen that on full display with some of the controversies over the recent years. There's also been Blizzard Entertainment, all about their values and how they're player first. They want people speaking out. Well, the Blitzchung...
I'm literally counting the days until Bobby Kotick gets to sit at the chair that he deserves, at the head of Blizzard, okay? The moment Bobby Kotick left, Blizzard turned to shit. I called it, I knew it. Some of you were saying you're crazy. Bobby Kotick was the evil. No. Bobby Kotick was the one that saved us from half black, half elf, double crippled, obviously ugly lesbian woman who teaches men how to be main protagonist, okay? Bobby Kotick was not gonna let that shit slide. Bobby Kotick was the wall.
Controversy really exposed them for who they really were, and how a foreign government really can alter that opinion or that mindset, supposedly. Now, there's been other instances, even just
now it's just now look at this. Now this is what Blizzard is. It's a guy who you can tell wants to drive in one of his 15 Lambos to, one of his 15 prostitutes' houses. Okay. You can tell that this person does not have a lot of soul left. For goddamn sake, at least remove the watch, okay? Macron removed the watch before addressing people about how times are hard. This dude can't even do that.
Now, there's been other instances, even just recently, Ready or Not, this is like a SWAT simulator of sort. The controversial censorship patch rolled back by Monitor almost instantly. If you're unaware, this SWAT sim Ready or Not, on July 15th, the developer Void Interactive released the free update for the experience. The update added new weapons and missions and fixed a long list of bugs, but it also controversially contained changes to some in-game content. This included covering up suspects as well as toning down body dismemberment caused by gunfire and explosions. These changes were implemented as part of Ready or Not's porting process to Xbox and PlayStation. In a statement posted earlier in the month about the changes, Void Interactive stated that they had only made the changes required by the first-party platform holders and decided to bring these tweaks to PC to better support crossplay and avoid extra bugs that could occur when maintaining different assets for each version. And despite considerable uproar from fans calling it unnecessary censoring and review bombing the game on Steam, the developers still went through with the update because, yes, they want that precious money from console. And what's even more just bizarre about this entire situation is that this is not the lone censorship issue with this entire situation. There's been a notable update in the fact that the uncensored or not mod that restores the original censored content has been taken down by Nexus Mods, which that platform...
Nexus Mods just being Nexus Mods once again. They came to... Was it Oblivion? Oblivion mods or something like that? But no, obviously Nexus Mods is a bunch of folk losers, and they're gonna keep doing what they're doing and try to censor everything that they don't like.
Forum altogether, I just do not understand the mindset, how they go about the decision making with what's acceptable and what's not. Nexus Mod has been notable for these issues over the years, and that's why there's been many individuals calling for a more suitable modding center, but so far that has not emerged. But we're really not talking about this specific instance of censorship, because this is some of the stuff that we've seen over the years, and it's definitely a problem. We've talked extensively about it here on the channel, and even this is another big one that we talked about a couple of years ago, in which Sony, again, the divide from Japan versus American culture, Devil May Cry's PS4 version was weirdly censored, but this is only something that happened in the West. There's been changes, they've kind of backed off on this a little bit, but we're actually talking about this. This is a secret enemy that really is emerging in the video game industry and just entertainment in general.
A bunch of lesbian activists through.
Which is not being talked about at all, but it has finally awoken.
Well, to be fair, I mean, this problem is actually pretty severe, because you need to understand, this news is spreading like wildfire, okay? The lesbian activists got their way. The funny part about this, that's a small and relatively weak group with no real pull or anything. There are bigger people out there who want to censor and pretty much just destroy Valve, because, well, you destroy Valve, suddenly it's harder to buy games. So Assassin's Creed, Slop Fiesta, Black Samurai is doing a lot more better because people just don't have anything to do, anything to buy. They don't know where to buy things, or maybe someone can just take over from Valve. They want this. And there are going to be bigger, stronger groups that now try and pull this shit off.
A lot of people based on some new rules coming down from Steam, which really shows how powerless the platform is to this quiet enemy. This is coming from Automation Media, but Steam rules updated to prohibit content that violates rules set forth by payment processors and banks. Valve's rules regarding what developers shouldn't publish on Steam have a new clause regarding standards set forth by payment processors. And Valve is very much admitting right here a very scary prospect, and the fact that payment processors can usurp whatever their rules and wishes are. This story again coming from Automation Media. Valve has updated its rules regarding content that developers aren't allowed to publish on Steam. The rules and guidelines...
By the way, if you don't know what a payment processor is, they're literally the guys who process the payments. And no, that's not your bank. For example, if you're a European, maybe you have like Swedbank or something like that. They are a bank, true. Visa card is also a bank, true. MasterCard is also, well, wait, are those the places even banks or just... No, they're just cards, right? In any case, they are the ones who process all of the payments. They are the ones who choose if a payment can actually go through. They have a lot of power. And those two companies, MasterCard and Visa, hold like roughly 90-ish or something % of all the transactions done in the world. Which, by the way, means that they have an incredible amount of money, okay? Because... a long time ago, we have already in the financial circles figured out that the best way to make money is not to sell the most hot shit. Is not to make the hottest shit. It is just to be the middleman for whoever wants to buy the newest, the hottest shit. Because while the hottest shit can change, the one who authorized the transaction doesn't, because no one cares about that part. So that's incredible power, and hopefully this will lead to, well, I don't know, a Stop Killing Games 2.0 where that, you know, the monopoly gets destroyed, because again, it's literally two companies that are probably doing the same shit that, in, for example, the USA gets done with penicillin, where, you know, all of the three companies that have that make penicillin shots for people have the same pricing, and when one goes up, the others also go up, because yeah, the free market is not that free, as it turns out. Can we stop that, at least for, you know, the payment processors?
Section of Steamworks documentation now has an extra clause, and it suggests that publishers are required to comply with rules and standards set forth by various third-party companies or parties involved in processing electronic payments. The rule seems to predominantly relate to adult content, and this is actually the specific rule on their Steamworks. You have many of the other stuff, again, they don't want certain types of content, defamatory statements, certain types of content. These are just basic rules. But then you get to the new one, number 15. This is the new one. Content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, in particular, certain kinds of adult-only content. Now, the problem with this is the fact that where does this stop, and how much power do these payment processors actually have? And what we've been seeing in recent months and years is that these processors,
again, the problem is all of it,
really can assert their will on developers or just entertainment companies in general. And this very much is an attack on...
No, the payment processors can literally assert their dominance on fucking everyone. Imagine you're like you're the hottest car making company in the world, and you sell cars, and your cars are fucking the shit, right? And then suddenly, like, Visa says, "Oh no, we're not gonna allow you. We're not gonna process your payments anymore. So anyone who wants to buy a car from you, cannot pay. Cannot pay in anything but cash." Or they should use a different payment processor. Dude, that's dead. That is just you being dead. That's instantaneously minus 50% of sales off the board, because who the hell is gonna pay in cash for, you know, a card nowadays? Okay, are we bringing back the gangster times when people just came in, looked for like they're from the hood, and gave 20K and bought a new whatever cool car? No, we're not moving back to that, sadly.
Artistic expression. You got to understand, Valve already has 14 or so and many other rules that outline what's acceptable and what's not. There's also lawmakers that have created laws that outline what's acceptable and what's not, even on platforms like this. But what we're seeing is that MasterCard, Visa, and some of these other, the banking industry is usurping those rules and making their own about what they deem acceptable. And that is a scary prospect for where this could be headed, because very much so, Steam, Valve, they do not have power here. If they lose their payment processors, it's game over. And they are just, they're not ready for that. They're not going to take this fight.
And the insane part is, technically, no company should be allowed to have that much power over you. Okay? One company just magically decides, you know what, your money is not good enough for us, and they cancel you out of using it. Your whole life is ruined. And they have all that right to actually do it. You can't sue them. You can't do anything against them.
Because, again, if that happens, they lose everything. So in their minds, banning a couple of games, that's just what's going to have to be done here. And again, that is just a very scary prospect. Now, this website, Automation Media, goes on to mention the fact that things like, you know, hate speech, malware, explicit content, depicting real people, any forms of all kinds of stuff. But this new 15th clause suggests that Steam may additionally have to crack down on specific types of adult content in response to the requirements of payment processors and banks, there are currently no specific examples of what this may entail. Now, the problem I have even with this little paragraph right here is it really doesn't put all of this into perspective, because while it is adult content for now, and a lot of you may look at some of this stuff and be like, oh, that's a stupid game, who cares about that? It's the precedent. It's also some of the experiences that have come under fire by some of these third parties that really should get you nervous with where this could be headed and how games could be altered in the future, especially designed when developers do not want to even running close to any of this type of controversy. SteamDB even outlined this. They talked about after this new rule came down, we saw a number of adult content being removed from the website. Steam has added a new rule.
Yeah, it's like 100 or so games.
Disallowing games that violate the rules and standards set forth by payment processors and card networks or internet network providers. At the same time, many adult-themed games were removed from the store. And I think a lot of people may view stuff like this and just be like, who cares? You know, these are experiences that probably shouldn't even be on the platform. But that really isn't the point about this whole controversy and where this could be headed. Now, SteamDB said this is possibly related to PayPal because people in certain regions have not been able to use it to pay on Steam for the past 5 days, which again, that pressure exists, and now Steam is having to give in because of this. Now,
PayPal's so trash, though.
This goes much further. I think people do not understand that this has been a problem that's been brewing, especially in Japan for a while now, but it's finally reaching outside of Japan and becoming a much wider issue. So this was actually the Nier creator. He went on social media just recently, towards the end of 2024, and he was talking about this. It's a security hole that endangers democracy itself. The Nier creator speaks out against payment processors pressuring Japanese adult content platforms.
Japan got by them, by the way. Yes, if you did not know. A whole country literally got by payment processors.
Guard and Nier Automata creator Yoko Taro recently joined in on the discourse surrounding Western credit card payment processors and the pressure they have been exerting on Japanese adult content platforms in the past year. In a post on his personal X account, Taro commented about credit card companies refusing to process payments for legal adult content. Publishing and similar fields have always faced
This is so insane considering OF is fine. All of those places are fine. Because this is used as purely a form of censorship. All of the platforms that fall under adult content, they're fine. They're fine. It's the ones that we don't like that are not fine.
Regulations that go beyond the law. But the fact that it is payment processors, which is involved in the entire infrastructure of content distribution, can do such things at its own discretion seems to be dangerous on a whole new level. It implies that by controlling payment processing companies, you can even censor another country's free speech, and that is what's essentially happening here. In a follow-up tweet, Taro goes on to say that I feel like it's not just a matter of censoring adult content or jeopardizing freedom of expression, but rather a security hole that endangers democracy itself. But before we continue, this video is brought to you by War Thunder. The most Japan is losing an archive of out-of-print manga because of international credit card companies. This again was towards the end of last year. Manga Libraries, the manga archive with 14 years of history, will be shutting down this month due to credit card companies taking issue with its adult content. And you got to understand what's actually happening here. This specific situation is the perfect outline of how violent video games could be the next thing that comes under fire. So, according to the announcement, Manga Library Z has run into trouble with credit card companies, which has resulted in the platform being unable to return revenue to its contributors, the manga artists. And this is the crazy part. The problem payment processing companies had with Manga Library Z was that transactions on the site involved adult content. Back in June, Ken Akamatsu revealed that an international credit card brand requested that we suspend the distribution of works containing specific words. And the crazy thing is they gave into this, because what else are you going to have? What else do you do in this situation like this? It seems the platform complied with these demands, removing manga that contain these words, but this was ultimately not enough, and they still, that's it. You're done. And unfortunately, this is just a platform that has now been shut down because of this, because they couldn't continue without that revenue stream, and they were at the will of these credit card companies, and even then, they just didn't give it.
See, this is why regulations are needed, okay? You can't just have a company that can completely ruin your life just by saying no. And you have absolutely nothing you can do against that. There's just nothing. Okay, that should not be allowed.
Shit. Now, Visa, for what it's worth, Visa Japan CEO has commented on this controversy. This again was towards the end of last year, and they said disabling card payments for legal adult content is necessary to protect the brand. Again, you got to understand where this is.
Wait, this is what they used the last. This is a dude. Again, they say, "Oh, protect the brand," but again, you can go. You can use your card to pay for off accounts, for PBUB and all of those things. You can do that. They have no problem with that any longer. But no, this needs to be to protect the brand. Like, come the fuck on.
Headed. There's outside pressure that we're about to get into that is very much these outside parties, these activist organizations are starting to realize how they can actually create some movement, some conversation, and it's really just taking direct aim at Visa and MasterCard, who is allowing payments for whatever content. Now, it goes on to mention here, what do credit card companies in question have to say about the matter? Recently, Visa's Japanese subsidiary, Visa Worldwide Japan, held a briefing to talk about its local expansion strategies. During the Q&A session of this briefing, the company's president and representative director was asked about why Visa is becoming unusable on sites selling adult content that's illegal in Japan. In response, Kitney commented that while Visa's policy is to make legal and legitimate purchases available as much as possible, it is sometimes necessary to deny use to protect the brand. He goes on to say that these are complex decisions involving both global and local policies, and that it is important to maintain sincerity and integrity, and we will continue to do so, which suggests that the company does not intend to change its stance. There is no specific explanation provided as to what kind of global and local policies Visa's decisions are being determined by. And that's just the scary prospect about this. It's whatever their executives over there at Visa and MasterCard are deeming unacceptable. They're not looking at local laws. They're not looking at the platform rules. They're just listening to outside noise pretty much and saying we don't want to represent content like this. And that's just crazy for companies like this and the power that they now have, or they really have always had, but they're finally realizing that's in their hands. Now, I do think it is worth highlighting that we have seen some game developers
I have seen the memes, okay? They're pretty good.
Commenting on this situation with Steam. And this is coming from Running with Scissors, known for the Postal series. The censorship is powered by the two major duopolistic payment networks, and as usual, the key people behind it don't even play games. Again, they just listen to outside noise. This may gradually become worse. Soon, games like the Postal series, RimWorld, and many others may have severe struggles.
Oh god, when they're gonna remember about Postal, it's gonna be over, okay?
These precedents are put into place just because these companies might eventually decide that they don't like their approach and force storefronts like Steam for takedowns. The future is not looking bright. And we have actually seen Valve comment on the story, and unfortunately they basically confirmed what's obvious. They do not have
Valve commented there's what are they supposed to do?
Power with any of this. Valve response to payment processor controversy hopes devs have another game to put on Steam.
Dude, banking and payment processing needs to be at this point approved as a basic human right, because like you can't fucking do shit without a bank. You can't do shit without payment processing. The bank currently, okay, you kind of can. But, I mean, they're constantly trying to push it that there's no paper money and things like that. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm a millennial Zoomer or whatever I'm supposed to be. I barely use my money. Okay, listen, let's actually check how much money I have. Oh, actually, I do have some. I have a whole whopping 80 euros in money. Okay? 80 euros. That was just a five note. But I have 80 in normal money, okay? And that has been like that for, I don't know, the past year or so.
This is the specific statement that was put out. Valve has essentially confirmed the situation. We were recently notified that certain games on Steam may violate the rules and standards set forth by our payment processors and their related card networks and banks. As a result, we are retiring those games from being sold on a Steam store because loss of payment methods would prevent customers from being able to purchase other titles and game content on Steam and would kill the platform. I mean, that's just That was what would
Obvious.
happen. We are directly notifying developers of these games and issuing app credits should they have another game they'd like to distribute on Steam in the future. And if that's not clear what these app credits are, it seems that Valve is refunding devs and hoping they'd return with a game or app that complies with the guidelines set by payment processors or network providers. So essentially, this is a nothing burger. What they're actually giving is just some of the developers a refund and say, hey, these new guidelines, you got to go along with it if you want to have a game on Steam. And the thing is, these guidelines, it's not exactly necessarily clear because these payment processors are being nitty picky about what they deem acceptable. And again, that could change in the future, which maybe violent video games is the next step, or games that are too explicit with its type of content. This is a very scary.
Oh, wow, is he not gonna go into it who actually forced Valve to do this?
In which they found that 80% of like the Steam forums, they have a bunch of Pepe the Frog, and that is deemed.
Oh, damn, the ADL strikes again, eh? Oh, yeah. I mean, all of this is obviously a blatant lie. And that's pretty much all she wrote. It is sad. We're gonna see how this works. I'm not sure if anything can be done about this. We can do a change petition board, I guess, or something like that again. Or, you know, Stop Killing Games 2.0, but it's a little bit different. Who honestly knows? But, again, the Stop Killing Games thing is like, okay, they saw that the people have found a way to actually use their poll, but it was never supposed to be used by them. That's a problem already. So, yeah. Fixing these problems is as likely as actually getting the Eibersteiner list being revealed. You know, about the guy and a woman on about the island and stuff. Yeah, not happening. Not happening. Anyway, 10 out of 10. That was Legacy Killer HD. Bam, there you go. Where are you? Bye.